Starting on October 1st, for the Governor's Project this year, I'm partnering with Leroy to bring you a program called Cops and Kids.
Thank you, Gene, very much. I really appreciate it. And you know, I love you. More than anything, Cops and Kids has really come full circle for me as being African American in the inner city. I had a reading disability. I was in special education, special needs department. But this is a little bit different because it's not about me. It's about kids like my son, Leroy Butler IV, who could not read. And I met a young lady who was a godsend, Miss Julia Witherspoon with Cops and Kids. Not only did she help my son read, but she helped my son become a leader in his classroom, and that's all you want as parents. Then I saw hundreds of policemen who will go around the schools in the Racine area and all around Milwaukee area, going into schools, helping kids read. I really appreciate that. So Cops and Kids is near to my heart. Thank you, Gene. Thank you to the Kiwanis Club. And I just want everybody, we're going to just together leap over literacy and jump into Cops and Kids as a team. It takes a team to conquer literacy. And I'm just so excited for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
We can be leaders. We can provide fellowship. We can serve our community and our kids. And we can have fun while we're doing it. I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that this service club can do when we pull our team together.
My name is Beverley Bradley, for those of you who don't know me. I see lovely Judy Dickerson. Oh my God. Love Judy Dickerson. Absolutely. You are very fortunate to have Judy in your presence. I agree, Judy. Thank you. Thank you. I'll tell you a little bit about what it is we do. I sent some documents today, and hopefully you'll have a chance to look at them. We just gave out our 1,108,000 free book. We continue with COVID, surprisingly, to be able to give out thousands of books. In fact, we had an event yesterday. I had an event last week. We have an event this Friday to celebrate Martin Luther King with one of our Allentown schools that has 800 little ones. You know, as well as I know, we have children in our community who are really struggling because their parents are just trying to survive. And COVID has not made that any easier. It's a very difficult situation for a lot of families. I just had a meeting at the community college, and one of the mothers came in and she started to cry when she saw our reading room. And she said, "This means the world to me and to my children." And she has 5 children. And so to be able to come in and get 25 books, 5 for each of her children, that's really a very special thing that we provide. I started this program because I grew up in poverty. My mother raised 5 children by herself, and education changed all of our lives. The community was very kind to me and to my 4 brothers. I went on to teach at Southern Lehigh High School. I'm assuming you know Southern Lehigh High School. I was there for 30 years, and when I retired, I'm a business teacher. I'm a high school business teacher. I was offered all of these jobs, and my husband said, "For heaven's sakes, don't take another job. You're retiring, go do something that you love." And I'm assuming that through Judy, you may know the history of Cops and Kids, but if not, it was started by a police officer, and the gal's name was Julia Burney at the time. And she grew up in poverty. And the lovely thing about her, she said her 3rd grade teacher leaned over her desk one day, the power of our words, and said to her, "Julia, you're a wonderful reader." And she said, "I honestly, Bev, didn't know I was a wonderful anything." And we have a lot of children everywhere who really don't know that they have potential. Southern Lehigh was an environment where if I asked my students who was going to college, every hand went up. Every hand in my classroom went up. The reality is that we have children. One of the first events that we ever did, we took the Muhlenberg education majors to one of our Allentown schools. And afterwards, as a teacher, I always like to have a debriefing kind of environment. And I had a conversation with them about, what they experienced in the classroom. And one of the girls was really quiet, and she finally raised her hand and she said to me, "They don't know that word." And I said, "Honey, what word don't they know?" "They don't know that word, college." How can you dream if you don't even know that exists? This has had such an impact on me because it is about the book being the connector. I'm always impressed. The event that we just did yesterday was with the Moravian College athletes with a little school in Bethlehem. And I'm always amazed afterward, hearing the questions that are asked and the conversation that takes place. And these young people want to know, these children want to know from the college students, how do you go to college? Like how do you know you're smart? I'm very troubled when a child doesn't know that they're smart. They really all have the potential to be incredibly successful. And I'm hoping that our book links these young people who have goals and a desire to do something special, and these children who may not have that. I don't blame the parents. I often get comments when I speak, and someone will say, "Well, how about the parents?" I said, we have parents hanging on by their fingertips. They have 2 and 3 jobs that are low-paying jobs oftentimes. They have no more to give. And so I love looking at your faces, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I want our children to know you. I want our children to know people who are caring, who value them. I always say that look at these communities. I tell Dr. Roy from the Bethlehem Area School District, I'm so proud to be in this community. Every one of the Bethlehem schools is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And for some of our children, that's the best part of their day. That's the best part. We don't know what they're going home to. And I hear stories sometimes that my heart aches to think what these children are living. And so if school is the best part, we need to make it a beautiful place for them and a nurturing place for them. And I'm very touched by the fact that we've been able to do that. When I see a million, and all the gentlemen out there, I'm going to tell you this, when I have to go pitch our program, that's what I start with, the number of books. The minute I say 1 million plus, all the male eyes open up like, oh, okay, well, we would like to be a part of this. The books are not the significant thing to me. The connections are the significant thing to me. I want to know that with every book we hand a child, we give them a sense of their value. I often say to them, I'm an old person, and I'm going to need really good people to take care of me when I'm even older. And often they'll say to me, we'll take care of you. And I love that. I truly love that. We try to do a multitude of things. If you saw the book distribution sheet that I gave you, our reading room is open. I keep a limited staff because of COVID, but they've worked really all through this COVID experience for me. We give out books to them. Every child again comes and they can take 5 books each time. The most wonderful thing I just did at our meeting, we had 4 book fairs at Barnes & Noble. The community has been very kind. We did 4 little book fairs. That's 4 weekend dates in the month of November and December. We picked 4. People bought $29,870 some worth of brand new books for us on 4 days. 4 days. In addition to that, we got book gift cards valued at almost $5,000. So the lovely young people from Becca High and from Liberty and from Emmaus High School and also from DeSales went into Barnes & Noble and were able to buy brand new books for every child in 4 of our community schools in Bethlehem and Allentown. That's magnificent. That's just a magnificent thing for me. This morning, in trying to get to my meeting, I had 4 of our sponsors call to say, we really want to give you money because we're hoping that we have a huge event in April that attracts never fewer than 4,000 people. They call me Now, part of this is I'm not paid to do this. And so it's very easy for me to ask for money because I'm not benefiting financially. I'm benefiting emotionally. I love this. I love this. And I love all of you. I am surrounded by beauty. The fact that you would ask that I speak to you says everything to me. You understand that it matters. And all of our partners understand that it matters. Our big celebration of reading, you've planned events. It's hard to get 5 groups together. We have over 90 community partners for that event. And everyone who comes back year after year after year. Our summer series, did I send the summer series? Did you get the summer series? Okay, that I love. I just talked with the folks from PPL. They're buying books. We have an event, I said this Friday. They bought books for the children at this Hayes Elementary. But in the summer, they sponsor that summer series. It has been remarkable. People are looking for no-cost, meaningful events for their children. I have a group of college students who have been with me throughout COVID every Wednesday. They have come since they're in high school, all through their college years, but they have taped all of our presenters and put them online. I get email from Oklahoma and Utah. Today I got one from Wyoming. We found you online on Facebook, and they're watching our little presenters around the country. And so I love that. I love that people understand it. I really believe this is a model for every community, not only in our cities, our states, our country, in the world. I do a lot of work with Lehigh University. Lehigh University has a global village. And every year that they had it, of course, COVID put that aside for a couple of years. I'm the final speaker before they go home. And I tell them, you know, we worked with you in Bethlehem at Lehigh on your brain for 6 weeks. I'm worried about your hearts. I want that wonderful brain to be coupled with a beautiful heart. I said, the world doesn't need any more Bernie Madoffs. And it's funny, the first year that I said that, they all know who Bernie Madoff is. And when I finished the first year that I did this, I was a little, it was nerve-wracking because their opening speaker was Richard Dreyfuss. Do you know who I mean? The actor from Mr. Holland's Opus. So I said to my husband, I'm not sure what I'm going to be saying to these young people that won't be topped with whatever Richard Dreyfuss had to say. Well, when I finished my speech, they stood and applauded for more than 10 minutes, and everybody was crying. And they've all promised me and have started Cops and Kids programs in their country. But I went out to lunch with them when the event was over, when I spoke, and I said to them, I told them I was a little frightened about speaking after Richard Dreyfuss. And there was this silence. And I said, what happened with Richard Dreyfuss? They said, well, he was terrible. I said, what do you mean he was terrible? And they said, you know, Mrs. Bradley, we know what's wrong with the world. We come here to Lehigh and to the United States to find out how to solve those problems. He talked about the problems and you talk about the solutions. And that makes all the difference to us. And they email me all the time about their excitement in helping a group of children in their country. We're 1 million books. I tell you, don't shoot for 1 million. We keep records of that. Shoot for one group of kids that need you and find one group of people that are willing to help you help these children. That's what it's all about. I love people who do food drives. I truly do. And I love people who do clothing drives. But I grew up in poverty. You get tired of feeling poor, even as a child. You know you're poor, and you don't have to be reminded of it. This is about empowering these children. This is about making them feel we love their brains. We love their brains, and we just want them to be smarter. That's what it's all about. Everyone's welcome. At our big event in April, Just Born Boys t-shirts for all the children. We had 991 little ones performing at the last event that we had before COVID. Every child has this little Cops and Kids t-shirt on. I'm going to tell you a story about that particular event. My mother could never afford, when she took us to an event, to buy 5 of anything. And as a little girl, I remember seeing cotton candy, and I thought, wow, that must be wonderful because it looks like angel hair. But you couldn't ask my mother because she just had nothing. She had less than nothing. And so my brother, my youngest brother, is a very, very good athlete. He played for Penn State and then the Buffalo Bills and the Chicago Bears. And the first event that we had, the first year, he cooked hot dogs with the mayor. And so everything we do is free. Nobody pays anything for anything. And so my brother said this man walked up to him and he said, peripherally, Bev, I could see behind him. And his wife was there and he had 3 little children. And they all had the little Cops and Kids t-shirts on. So the man leaned into my brother. Now, my brother's adorable and has a quirky sense of humor, but people love him because he's just this handsome mountain of a man. And the man leaned into him and said to him, excuse me, sir, could you tell me how much these hot dogs are? And my brother said to him, 5 for nothing. And so the man looked at him and he said, I don't understand what you're saying. He said, look around you, sir. Everything here today is free. And he said, the man started to cry. And he said, you know, Bev, it was Mom. Because not being able to provide for your children is sometimes the most difficult thing that good parents struggle with. I just love that we give them the opportunity to think positively about their children, to have the books that they might need to make their children be successful. I mentioned the summer series, and I sent that to you specifically because we have a deal with Barnes & Noble. There are usually 20 events throughout the summer. And if a child comes to 10 of the 20, we make a big deal of it. And what we do is Barnes & Noble lets them choose a brand new book because most of ours are gently used. They let them choose a brand new book, and Cops and Kids lets them choose a brand new book. And as an award, we buy 2 brand new books of their choosing, whatever book they would love. And I wrap them. So it's like getting the Academy Award. And we have this big announcement on the last event date. The last event date, of course, we gave out these books and they're thrilled. And they love, my volunteers at first said, why are we always wrapping things? I said, so much in their life is used. So we're giving them gently used books. Let them feel as if there's something special that they're getting. And they did this special thing to get this special gift. One of the mothers said, could I talk with you for a moment? I said, certainly. And so her little daughters were in the reading room and I went outside. And she looked at me and she said, you know, my daughters have been to all 20 events. And I said, I know they have, and we've loved having them there. And she said, you know, Mrs. Bradley, I know you know you're helping them. But she said, I'm raising these 3 beautiful little girls on my own. And they're smart and they're just wonderful children. I added up what they took in books today, and it was over $150 in books. And she touched my hand and she said to me, that's food money and that's rent money. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping us. That's a magical moment to me. That's really a wonderful moment. It's an empowering moment for her children. But this is a mother who wants her children to be successful. And I had a mother who wanted me to be successful. And that made all the difference. She was coupled with a community that made me feel that I could be successful. And that's truly what Cops and Kids is all about. Cops and Kids is making us come together for our children because they're our future. You need to take hold. It's not our future anymore. It's their future. And that's our gift back. If all of you are here today, someone made you believe that you could. I don't know if it was a parent or a teacher or somebody in the community, a neighbor. Someone said to you, you can do this. That's a defining moment. If Julia Burney was inspired to do this because a third grade teacher said, Julia, you're a wonderful reader. Look what she's done. I want our kids to know that they can matter, but we have to matter. We have to step out of our shell and look to what we can do to inspire a child. You never know when that moment comes up. You don't know when that moment arrives where you can make a difference in a child's life. And sometimes it's the kindest little phrase. I told you I was a teacher at Southern Lehigh. My husband and I sold a car, and the man said to my husband, in the course of the conversation, my husband mentioned that this car took me back and forth to school. You know, the little old lady driving her car, it's the perfect car. He said, oh my gosh, was your wife Miss Donches? And he said, yes. And he said, I've heard of Miss Donches my whole married life. I'm not going to tell my wife, but I'm going to bring her with me when we pick up the car. And this beautiful, God bless her, she was gray at that point. So I had her back in 1971, imagine. Anyway, she walks our little brick walkway, and she looks at me and she said, Miss Donches, do you remember me? And I said, I do, Suzanne. Suzanne had that long straight hair that kids had where you didn't even see her face. And I always felt sorry for her. Well, one day she got her hair cut. And she had a little, do you know Dorothy Hamill cut? You know what I'm talking about, that little. Well, I looked up, she was in 9th grade. I looked up and she walked through the doorway and she was gorgeous. And I said, well, little Suzanne, aren't you the most beautiful thing I've ever seen? If I said that to you right now, regardless of your age, it makes your day. Imagine you're a 9th grader and someone says that to you, and she smiled. And I said, Suzanne, you light up the world with that smile. You just keep smiling, honey, and there's nothing that can stop you. I tell teachers, I speak to teachers all the time. I said, that doesn't take a lesson plan. That doesn't take any time on your part. It takes compassion and understanding the faces of your students. She said to me, Mrs. Bradley, you don't know this. She said, I came from a family. I had a nice home. I had nice clothing. I had food. I have never been hugged. I have never known that I was anything. And that day I knew I was beautiful. And I went home and I put the covers over my head with a flashlight and a mirror, and I smiled at myself. I just always wanted to thank you. It was a day that changed my life. Every child should think they're beautiful. Every child should think they can do. It's up to us to make sure that happens if they're not getting it anywhere else. I love the teachers that I work with because for the most part, they get this. And I hear their comments to those little ones. And they're so nurturing. But we need to do that. We need to do that. I love being around people who get this. And if I have to explain to people why it matters, it's almost too much work for me. I want to know that somehow instinctively you understand that this is the right thing to do. I have loved the fact that we have, in fact, changed a lot of business people to understand their responsibilities. We have companies making a fortune. Give a little bit of that fortune to make a difference in our children and ultimately in our future. That's really all I have to say. And I feel so terrible that I can't hear you. And I see we have a lot of comments. I would love to come when COVID is over. If you'd like me to come, Judy probably can offer you as much in the way of guidance. She volunteered with us. That's how it all began, I think, for her. And she's done magnificent things in Easton. I love that. I love the ripples in the stream kind of thing. that our goodness really impacts people that we don't even anticipate it impacting. I love that many of the children who volunteer with us have told me that they got their first books from us and they wanted to come back and help. That's what I'm hoping hoping daily happens in the future, that they understand that their responsibility to give back. We are very lucky. You know, at this point, I'm lucky just that I lived this long. My mother died at a very young age, but she had a very difficult life raising 5 of us. So life has been very good to me. The community has been very good to me. And it's my responsibility. If I don't do this, I should be ashamed. But I love groups like Kiwanis and Rotary. I do. I think your whole mission is the fact that you want to make a difference. And I think this is a beautiful way to make a difference. That's it. Oh, no, wait, no, I don't applaud yet. I love you. I have to tell you this cute little story. You should be left with this. Our children are such fun to be around. And Judy, you would agree. I know you would. When we go to the schools, I have such a good time just interacting with them because they're wise beyond their years. But, you know, with COVID, all the little ones have masks. It's so nice to see all of you without a mask. We have one mask, but all of you without masks, because I miss your smiles. I miss people's smiles. But we have every year, we decorate the mayor's tree in Bethlehem. And I take 100 to 150 little ones, 3rd graders, from our schools throughout the community. And I go in and we do a civics lesson. And I ask them what the mayor does. And you'd be amazed at what they think the mayor does. But I put it all on the board and we fill the board. You know, he changes the lights and the lights go out and whatever. So I tell him, well, you know, the mayor called and said, you know, Bev, I know you know a lot of good kids and I'm just so busy doing all of this. I wondered if you knew any good kids who could help me decorate my tree at City Hall. And they fall out of their chairs, raising their hand and say, tell them we could help. And I said, I love that. So we go, the Moravian College athletes go and they lift them up so they can put them on the high parts of the tree. And this year we made ornaments. Thank you, Mayor Donches, because it was his last hurrah, if you will. But nevertheless, as this year we couldn't, of course, take them to City Hall. So they made the ornaments and I had young people from the community's high school decorate the tree with the police. And so as a gift to them, one of my sponsors, for being kind to the mayor, one of my sponsors buys them all new backpacks and we decorate them with beautiful bows. And then one of the former Moravian students, which I love, contacted me and he said, I want to make a donation of $500. I said, oh my gosh. And he said, well, Mrs. Bradley, the best thing I ever did every year that I was at Moravian, I went to help the little ones decorate the mayor's tree. And I never forgot that. And so would you use this money to buy new books for all those kids who decorate the tree this year? And I have a deal with Scholastic. I get a book for $1. And so that allowed me to buy 500 books, which was wonderful. But nevertheless, when we were there, when we went after they decorated the tree, we went into Little Holy Infancy and Dunnigan. And I took some high school kids who had decorated the tree and of course we gave them the backpacks and we gave them the books. And afterwards, we just had a little conversation and we read them a story. And so they were so cute. I said, you know, I miss seeing your little faces, but you all have masks, which is wonderful. Now, nobody is 6 feet from anybody in this classroom. So I said, and what else do you have to do? And this one said without any hesitation, 6 feet. And I thought, well, they know about 6 feet. So I said, 6 feet, how do you know 6 feet? And he pointed to his little foot. Do you remember how tiny your little foot is when you're in elementary school? And he said, 6 of those. You know how big, how big his little foot? Well, he was about right. That's how far they were apart from one another. Well, that's their wisdom. They're joyful. They're so appreciative of our kindness. They're so appreciative of our presence. Invariably, when I'm out in public, a little one will come up to me and say to me, will you see Jennifer or whatever? I don't know who Jennifer is. I take thousands of kids into the schools. I don't know who, but I always say, yes, I will. Would you tell her I said hi? That tells me everything. Although we may be in that classroom for maybe 2 hours at the most, we have given them not only that book, but we have given them a part of ourselves. And I love that that's what this is all about. I never wanted to just drop books off at a school's doorstep. I wanted to connect it to someone like you, who could look into their eyes and tell them, you matter to us very, very much, because they do. And so from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate coming. I love who you are. I'd love to be in an environment where I can actually have a conversation with you, but keep me in mind. I certainly will come again when we're somewhat back to normal to talk with you. And I thank you. I thank you for the invitation. Bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I may just share, and as Beverly was speaking, I look at each one of you, and you kind of symbolize what Beverley Bradley is to me, and it is the glue, this community. Some of you have heard me say that in different spaces, but one of the powers of Cops and Kids is that it is the glue for the community. And she talked about connectors and being connectors. And I just want to acknowledge Kiwanis as one of the major connectors in the Easton community. And looking at each one of you have come from career areas that are different. I don't think there's a replication of anyone with the exact same journey, career journey, and each of you have strengths that you bring, and you are being the glue, which I'm so pleased to be a part of. So thank you for thinking of Beverly. She is kind of a model for me and has been a huge mentor, as you can tell from her stories that she shared and so forth. So
I'm going to share my screen for a moment, and I want to show you something that is a picture that means a lot to me. And we're talking about sharing, but Easton Kiwanis used to work with a fellow by the name of Terry Kennedy, who used to produce these little individual books for the Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton schools, first grade. This was the first year we did it back in 2007. And that little young boy sitting on my lap, his name is Jameer Occult. When we handed him his book with his picture and his name inside the book, he looked at the book and he said, "Is this my book?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Can I take it home?" I said, "Well, when your teacher tells you, you can take it home." And then he said, "I can't wait to show my parents that I'm not dumb. I've got my own book to read." I'll just leave you with that.
Okay. Bill, you got a bell, or are we just gonna?
Oh, I have a bell.
All right. All right. We look forward to the presentation next week, and have a good week, and stay healthy.